What if I told you that you should really see how the OnePlus Pad 2 compares with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Plus? There's been some discussion online about whether Samsung should have gone with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chip, which is exactly what OnePlus did here, so which one is the right choice? And thank you to Best Buy for sponsoring a portion of this video. Now, price is always a factor when comparing two products, so the Pad 2 starts at $499 and the Tab S10 Plus at $999, and both come with 256GB of storage and 12GB of RAM. On the surface, that's a massive gap, and there are different accessories and gifts that come with each tablet. We'll talk about that more later on, so let's see which one is a better value. Okay, so starting out with the displays, the Pad 2 has a 12.9-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 3000 by 2120, an aspect ratio of 7:5, 144Hz adaptive refresh rate, and a pixel density of 303 pixels per inch. The Tab S10 Plus has a larger 12.4-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X display with a resolution of 2800 by 1752, a 16:10 aspect ratio, 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, and 266 pixels per inch. Now, the OLED display on the Tab S10 Plus has per pixel control. We're getting incredible image quality and color, very dark blacks, and excellent contrast ratio. 144Hz on the iPad 2 is great for games that support a higher refresh rate, and I love how smooth the user animations are with Oxygen OS, and we'll come back to the operating systems later on because there are several important differences. Now, as far as max brightness, we're looking at 650 nits on the Tab S10 Plus versus 600 nits on the Pad 2. Both have a high brightness mode and support HDR10+, but what's interesting is that Netflix does not recognize HDR capabilities on the Pad 2, while it does recognize it on the Tab S10 Plus. Now, when you're watching movies or videos, the aspect ratio of 16:10 on the Tab S10 Plus is a bit closer to the aspect ratio of the content. And on top of that, the display itself is slightly larger, so you end up getting a bigger image with smaller black bars at the top and the bottom. And if you zoom to fill the screen on both devices, there's a smaller crop on the Tab S10 Plus. If you're using these tablets in portrait mode, then the Pad 2 is a bit wider, which some users prefer for handwritten notes, and we're also getting a higher resolution display, but the Tab S10 Plus has a noticeably less reflective display, which is great when you're working outside or in environments where you may have to deal with reflections. All right, so when it comes down to it, I would choose the Tab S10 Plus display for essentially anything unless you really want 144Hz. I do want to point out that if I was primarily buying one of these tablets just for watching content, I'd have to think very hard if I want to pay twice as much for an OLED display. And by the way, if you're watching this from outside of the US, please let me know in the comment section where you're from and how much each tablet costs where you live. Now, as far as overall size, the Tab S10 Plus is longer and the Pad 2 is wider, but for portability, they're close enough to where it's not really a meaningful difference. Now, the one advantage that Samsung has here is that if you want essentially the same features but an even larger display, they do offer the Tab S10 Ultra with a 14.6-inch display and then, of course, a higher price. Now, surprisingly, the Pad 2 is thicker by about 1 millimeter and it's also slightly heavier. And both tablets have an aluminum frame and back, so the build quality feels very solid. For durability, I'm going to give the edge to the Tab S10 Plus because both the tablets and the S Pen have an IP68 rating, so I know I have protection from water and dust. From a design standpoint, we're seeing rounded corners on both tablets, but the Tab S10 Plus has flat edges versus rounded ones on the Pad 2. Now, while the Samsung design is more modern, I have to admit that the rounded edges on the OnePlus are more comfortable for me to handle, especially during longer gaming sessions where I end up unintentionally squeezing the tablet harder than I need to. Now, because the rear camera module on the Pad 2 is in the center of the tablet, when it's laying flat on the surface, it wobbles when you press on one of the sides. Now, of course, if you attach the back of the keyboard case, then this issue goes away. Now, the Tab S10 Plus has 4 speakers versus 6 on the Pad 2. And while the Tab S10 Plus gets louder, the Pad 2 has noticeably better audio quality. Mids and highs are clear, and there's almost no distortion even at max volume. Now, both tablets have USB-C ports for charging and connecting accessories, and both are 3.2. One feature that I love about the Tab S10 Plus is that it has a micro SD card slot, so I can relatively inexpensively expand the internal storage by up to 1.5 terabytes. That can save me money, and I can use that storage for files, photos, videos, and for most apps. Now, both tablets have some great multitasking capabilities. With the Tab S10 Plus, you can have 3 tiled apps open at the same time. You can resize each window to get get the configuration that works best for you, and you can have pop-up windows. The Pad 2 can also have 3 apps open at the same time, but you can only use 2 of them at a time, and you're also able to add a pop-up window for certain apps. Now, overall, multitasking works really well on both devices. We have docks and sidebars in both cases, but the Tab S10 Plus has some important additional features. So first, it can be used as a second display for a laptop or desktop with second screen. And next, you can boot it in DeX mode. If you're not familiar, DeX gives you a desktop-like user interface with icons, folders, a taskbar. I can open multiple windows, snap them to half the display, and even have floating windows. It works great with a keyboard case. I can actually pair a mouse if I wanted to, and at home, I would be able to pair an external keyboard and an external display for a dual display setup. So overall, basic multitasking works well on both devices, but if you're looking for the more capable option, that would be the Tab S10 Plus. Now, if you want a 2-in-1 device with an actual desktop operating system and you're looking to do even more with a powerful and ultra versatile device, you should check out the Microsoft Surface Pro Copilot Plus PC at today's sponsor, Best Buy. The Surface Pro 11 combines the flexibility of a tablet with the power of a laptop and without having to adapt your workflow to a mobile operating system. So you can install and use all the same apps that you do on your Windows desktop with the same functions, file management, and settings that you're already familiar with, and it starts at $9.99. It has a 13-inch 120Hz touchscreen display. You can choose between LCD and OLED, and it has a built-in kickstand, so you can always position it at just the right angle. You can pair it with the Surface Pro keyboard and Slim Pen for a complete laptop replacement with a physical keyboard, trackpad, and a very similar feel to pen and paper when drawing and taking handwritten notes, while at the same time adding protection for the display during transport. Now, using Microsoft Copilot, you can translate and transcribe podcasts, pre-recorded or live videos, or even live conversations. And Co-Creator and Paint can help anyone become an artist with both text and image prompts. So check out the Microsoft Surface Pro 11 at Best Buy, and thank you to Best Buy for sponsoring this portion of the video. And when we look at biometric authentication, the Pad 2 has Face Unlock, and the Tab S10 Plus offers a great under-display fingerprint sensor and a face recognition option. Again, this is an area where I would give the edge to the Tab S10 Plus because it gives me 2 options, and maybe this is something that OnePlus can include in a future model. Now let's take a look at some accessories that help expand the functionality of each tablet. Now, looking at keyboard options, the Pad 2 is compatible with the OnePlus Pad Smart Keyboard. It's a 2-piece keyboard with a magnetic back, and you can separate the keyboard and just use the back as a stand. Now, the Tab S10 Plus is compatible with the book cover keyboard, which is a similar design to the one that we saw with OnePlus. And then we have the book covered keyboard Slim, which has a more compact and stable design, but lacks a trackpad. And of course, you can always use an external Bluetooth keyboard with both tablets. Personally, I like the feel of the keys on the OnePlus keyboard better. They feel like they have a bit longer travel and slightly more feedback, so they're more comfortable in the long term. Now, both keyboards offer a full row of function keys, but I like the trackpad on the OnePlus keyboard better, again, because it's larger and you can press anywhere on it since it's not a springboard design. On the other hand, the Tab S10 Plus keyboards have a dedicated slot for the S Pen, so it's secure and it doesn't fall off when I put it in my bag, and there's also a dedicated AI button. Now, moving on to stylus options, the Tab S10 Plus comes with a free S Pen. It pairs wirelessly, it can be stored on the side or on the back of the Tab S10 Plus, but it will only charge on the back. Now, the Pad 2 is compatible with the Stylo 2, which pairs wirelessly, can be stored on the side of the Pad 2, and sells for an additional $100. It also has haptic feedback and a sound effect when you're using the pencil tool. You're able to assign functions to the button on the S Pen, which is similar to the Pad 2's double tap function. Both offer Bluetooth functions, but the S Pen has much more versatile Bluetooth functions. So you can use it to take pictures, control media playback, and for several other useful tasks. Now, with both stylus options, the latency is extremely low. It's 2.8 milliseconds on the Tab S10 Plus and 2 milliseconds on the Pad 2. But the actual writing or drawing experience is very different. The Stylo 2 has a more firm tip, so it's a little bit harsher when it hits the glass, and it feels like you're writing or drawing on a single sheet of paper that's placed on a hard surface. Now, the S Pen has a softer tip, so when it hits the glass, it gives a little, and it feels more like you're writing on a full pad of paper where the pages compress as you press them. I always say the one isn't objectively better than the other for every use case. It's going to come down to which one feels better for you, so hopefully this description was helpful. Now, looking at the camera systems, both the front-facing cameras are on the long edge, so I'm always properly framed and I'm looking at the person that I'm talking to. Now, the Pad 2 has an 8-megapixel front-facing camera versus a 12-megapixel one on the Tab S10 Plus. The Pad 2 can record it up to 1080p 30, and the Tab S Plus can go up to 4K 30, and here's a quick sample. Here's a camera and microphone test of the OnePlus Pad 2 and the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Plus. This should give you a pretty good idea of the type of image quality that you're going to get and the type of audio quality that you should expect from each tablet. And moving on to the rear-facing camera modules, the Tab S10 Plus is a 13 megapixel wide and an 8 megapixel ultra wide versus a single 13 megapixel wide on the Pad 2. Now, I don't typically use these cameras for anything other than for scanning documents because I always have at least one phone with me and it always has a better camera. Now, as far as battery, the Tab S10 Plus has a 10,090 milliamp hour battery versus 9,510 on the Pad 2. And both tablets have easily lasted through a typical day of use unless I spent hours gaming, which I'll get to in a minute. Now, of course, how much on-screen time you actually get from your tablet is going to depend on the screen brightness, which apps you use, and how efficient each chip is when performing those specific tasks. Now, when it comes to charging, the Tab S10 Plus can charge at up to 45 watts versus 67 watts on the Pad 2, which of course I prefer. As far as processing power, the Pad 2 comes with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chip, which some people expected Samsung to use on their flagship tablets. Instead, Samsung elected to go with the MediaTek Dimensity 9300 Plus, so let's see how these two compare for single-core performance as well as multi-core performance in synthetic benchmarks. Let's also take a look at GPU performance, where we see the Snapdragon chip come out ahead. Now, I always share benchmarks because people are interested, but in terms of actually using both tablets every day, I have to say that both are extremely fast and responsive. Apps essentially open at the exact same speed. I'm super happy with the performance of both chips, and it'll be interesting to revisit performance in about a year. Now, when it comes to gaming, in terms of processing power, both tablets played games like PUBG, Genshin Impact, and other demanding games without a problem. The Pad 2 has a gaming tools panel, which has a ton of customizable gaming-specific features and modes, and I absolutely love that. It's definitely something that I hope other tablet manufacturers implement in the future. With both tablets, when playing PUBG, I could go to Ultra Extreme 120 FPS with graphics set to smooth, or all the way up to Ultra HDR for graphics and Ultra for frame rate. So overall, when talking about gaming performance, both tablets can definitely hold their own. So if you're looking for a powerful Android tablet to game on, you really can't go wrong here. Now, in terms of comfort, again, I prefer the design of the Pad 2 because the sharper edges of the Tab S10 Plus start to hurt after a few hours of playing PUBG. When I want to play cloud-based games, I pair my Xbox controller, and then I can play any game that's available with the Xbox Game Pass app. And in that context, I'm primarily using the tablet as a display, so I prefer the better display on the Tab S10 Plus. But what about when we look at general apps and long-term support? There's lots of apps in the Galaxy Store and the Google Play Store, so the majority of users are easily going to find what they're looking for. As far as the operating systems themselves, both One UI and Oxygen OS are fast, responsive, easy to use, and have tons of functionality. Visually, I like Oxygen OS a little better. It's a personal preference, but the interface is excellent, and the UI animations might be the best that I've seen. I did notice that some apps work better on the Tab S10 Plus in terms of auto rotate, and there's still a few glitches with Oxygen OS, but overall, both are great options. Now, as far as operating system support, OnePlus is offering 3 years of OS updates and 4 years of security updates, versus Samsung, which now offers 7 years of OS and security updates. So that's a clear win for Samsung. Now, looking at AI, both tablets offer really nice features. And while OnePlus has some unique photo manipulation options, like the AI eraser remove people, I found that Samsung's object eraser worked faster and was more reliable. Both tablets can transcribe audio files and summarize articles, but with the Tab S10 Plus, you can do things like circle to search with Google, where you literally just circle anything on your screen and the tablet will do a Google search for you and show you the results. You can use Galaxy AI to do things like solve math problems and even turn my horrible sketches into images. So while both tablets offer AI features, I would give Samsung the edge here with the number of features, the implementation, the reliability, and the ease of use. Now, looking at configuration and pricing, the base models of both tablets start out at 256 gigabytes, and the Pad 2 is much less expensive at $499 versus $999 $399 on the Tab S10 Plus. Remember that if you want a stylus, the S Pen is included with the price of the Tab S10 Plus, while the Stylo 2 will cost you an extra $100. One nice bonus with the Pad 2 is you actually get a free pair of OnePlus Buds Pro 3 with the purchase of the tablet, and they're super nice. If you need additional storage, the Pad 2 has no other options, whereas the Tab S10 Plus goes up to 512 gigabytes, and you can also use the micro SD card slot to add an additional 1.5 terabytes of storage. So the question you need to ask yourself is, do you think that the better display, the larger size, the improved multitasking capabilities, more versatile biometric authentication, longer OS and update support, and improved AI features on the Tab S10 Plus are worth the higher price? Or can you get most of what you need and want in a flagship tablet for about half the price with the OnePlus Pad 2? Now you should check out this comparison. You know what I always say, buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.